وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وخليله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. طيب إخوان, inshallah ta'ala, what we're going to do for this particular lesson, we're going to go back to the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi. However, I just think there's a particular hadith that kind of stands out that we actually need to go over today, inshallah. Throughout Ramadan, people have a tendency to focus only on leaving off food and drink. But they forget about their actions. Knowing that actions can also either break the fast or at the very least take away from the reward of the fasting. So there's one particular hadith, inshallah ta'ala, that I want all to focus on, inshallah ta'ala. For those who want to write it down, I'll say the hadith slowly. For those who want to memorize it, record it, they can as well. So this hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Inna al-sidqa yahdi ila al-birr." That he said that truthfulness, verily truthfulness, it leads to righteousness. And then righteousness ultimately leads to Jannah. Verily a man who will speak the truth until he's written down with Allah as someone who speaks the truth, or someone who's being truthful. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam flipped it. He said that inna al-kadhiba yahdi ila al-fujur. That lying, it leads to what? Vile actions, ignorance, and all these particular things, evil actions. And that evil actions ultimately end up leading to what? To the fire. Verily a man will be consistent upon lying so much that he eventually is written down with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a liar. Alright, so before we actually go into the hadith again, once we're going to mention it one more time, and then we're going to actually go into the sharh, the explanation of the hadith. So the Prophet said what? Very truthfulness, it leads to what? Righteousness. And righteousness eventually leads to what? Jannah. Right? So much so that a man will speak the truth until he's written with Allah as a what? As someone who is what? Trustworthy and truthful. And then verily lying, it leads to what? Evil actions. And evil actions leads to what? The fire. And verily a man will lie so much that he will be written with Allah as a what? Play. Now we all have an understanding of the hadith. Let's actually go into the sharh, the explanation of the hadith. Some people, when they read this hadith, they interpret this hadith from one aspect. They interpret it as being truthful is only someone who, if they're asked a question, they do what? Speak the truth. They speak the truth. If that is your understanding of the hadith, and there's no other meaning of truthfulness, فَقَدْ أَقْطَعْتَ. You have made a big mistake. Because that is not the meaning of the hadith. Yes, being truthful, when you're asked a question that you speak the truth, this is valid, this is a point. But that's not the only level of truthfulness. So therefore, we want to mention, inshallah ta'ala, this is kind of important, inshallah, that there's 3 levels of truthfulness. That if a person exemplifies these 3 levels, then inshallah ta'ala, he is written with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as someone who is truthful. You need a pen, I think? Oh, he's written with somebody, he's written with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as someone who is truthful. We said there's 3 levels of truthfulness. If he or she practice these 3 levels, then and there, they will fulfill this hadith as being someone who is truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Excuse me. The first level, excuse me. The first level is that person is sadiq ma'a nafsihi. The person is truthful with themselves. They're not in a denial. What does that mean, Ikhwan? What does that mean when we say a person is being truthful with himself or herself? What does that mean? Anybody?
They have a sound heart.
Huh?
A sound heart.
They have a sound heart. Play. Anybody else? We said the first level of truthfulness is that a person is sadiq ma'a nafsihi. He's truthful with himself.
When they do something wrong, they acknowledge that they did it.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Thank you. So what we should understand is that, as Salih had mentioned, that a person acknowledges the wrong. They acknowledge their shortcomings. They don't make excuses for everything. Anything this person does, he always got an excuse for it. Therefore, they're not even acknowledging that they have an issue with themselves. So therefore, if a person is truthful with himself, this is the first level of being truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of being written down with Allah as someone who is truthful. So the first one, let's say a person has, just for an example, an alcoholic issue. It's alcoholic. And he always blames other people for his issue. This is the reason why he drinks. Never looks at himself or herself and dig deep inside. I have these particular issues because of me. I have these anger issues because of me. He always or she always looks at other people for their issues. They want to blame other people. They have a shaitan complex, if you will. And what I mean by that is that we remember the conversation with shaitan between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he was kicked out of Jannah. What did shaitan say to Allah after Allah kicked him out of Jannah?
You made me out of
right, you made me out of fire, right? You made me out of clay, that's why I'm not prostrating. So Allah said, then get out of here because it's not a place for you to be arrogant. But what did shaitan say? Huh? Right, he's going to call mission. Before that, he said, because you kicked me out, I'm going to do this, that, and the third. He's blaming what? Blaming Allah for what? His issues. So people, what? It's self-denial. You're not keeping it real with yourself, for lack of better words. So everyone else is the cause for your issues. So therefore, the first level of being truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that what? Sadiq ma'a nafsihi. That a person is truthful with themselves. Alright? The second level, and once again, we're going over the hadith that truthfulness leads to what? Righteousness leads to what? Jannah. The second level, Ikhwan, is that a person is truthful with his Lord. Now, how can a person be truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This means that a person tries their very best to uphold the commandments of Allah. Huh? Within the Sharia. Basically, the person exhorts himself to try to uphold the commandments of Allah. It's very hard to get up for Fajr. Let's be real. Sometimes it's hard to get up for Fajr. Especially if Fajr comes in at 4:30 in the morning. So now, someone who is truthful, they're going to do what? They're going to go to bed early. They're going to at least set the alarm clock. They're going to try to make those attempts to get up, right, in the morning. Especially sometimes you get off work late, you get home at 11:30, 12 o'clock, and you're like, I'll just make Fajr when I wake up. Someone who, at the very least, who's being honest with themselves and honest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm going to get up. I might be dog tired, but I'm going to do what? I'm going to get up. This particular person is being what? Truthful with his Lord. Also, even if the person falls into some sins, at the very least, he's going to do what? He's going to feel remorse. He's going to make what? Tawbah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, كل بني آدم خطاء وخير الخطائين التوابون. That all the children of Adam, they do what? Not only do they sin, but when he said khata, they habitual upon sin. They always going to do it. وَخَيْرُ خَطَّائِينَ, and the best from those who just keep making mistakes are those what? Tawwabun. Tawwab in Arabic is used for mubalagha, for exaggeration. So therefore, what the Prophet ﷺ is saying is that just as many times you make mistakes, as many times a person does what? Repent. Shouldn't be you make all these mistakes, you only repent one time. As the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions in another hadith that verily I make istighfar, I ask Allah to forgive me more than 100 times a day. And this is the Prophet ﷺ. How much more for me and you? Alright? So therefore, this is a person, the second level, this is a person being truthful with who? The first level was what?
Truthful with themselves.
Person being truthful with themselves. They acknowledge their faults. They acknowledge their shortcomings. Right? They're not in self-doubt. The first step into correcting the issue is what? Know that you have an issue. And the further you walk away from this, the further you try to avoid an issue, the further you're moving yourself away from the solution. Alright, so we need to understand that. The third level is that a person is sadiq ma'al akharin. The person is truthful with other people. Truthful with his friends. Truthful with their spouse. Doesn't lie to their spouse. Doesn't steal from their spouse. Don't cheat his brothers. Don't cheat on his wife. She don't cheat on him. So on and so forth. Should a person exemplifies these three levels of truthfulness, a person is being honest with themselves about their shortcomings and what they need to work on. A person is being honest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a person is also being honest with what? with other people, how he deals with them, and so on and so forth. He's fair. He doesn't lie. He doesn't steal. He doesn't only want his haqq, but he gives also what? The haqq of other people. If a person does all of these three levels, inshallah ta'ala, he has fulfilled the meaning of the first part of the hadith. Meaning that what? What was the first part of the hadith? That truthfulness leads to what? Righteousness. Righteousness leads to what? A person will speak the truth. A person. Huh? He speaks the truth so much that Allah writes him down as what? As someone who is what? Someone who is trustworthy, someone who is truthful. Right? But it's not just sufficient that a person, if he asks a question, for an example, let's say Salih, he asks me a question. How old are you? And I tell him my age. I say, Khalas, I'm someone who's truthful. But I lie and I steal. And I do this and I do that. Am I someone who is truthful? No. So it should not be understood that if you only ask a question, you speak the truth, then you're clarified as someone who's being honest or someone who's truthful. That's only one level. Rather, it's three levels as well. That if a person, if he exemplifies or she practices these three levels, then and there they are considered someone to be truthful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You understand that part? Right. The second part of the hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said the same thing on the opposite side. He said that verily lying leads to what? Evil actions. And evil actions eventually leads to what? To the fire. Verily a person will lie so much that eventually they'll be written with Allah as a what? As a lie. First and foremost, this is a difference between, you need to understand this is a difference between someone saying that you're a liar. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that you are a liar. There's a big difference. Perhaps, for an example, if Salih, he comes to me and he says, Abdul, you're a liar. He might be right, he might be wrong. But if Allah says you're a liar, he's definitely right. And there's no, also, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will expose people, imma fi dunya wa imma fi akhirah. When he will expose them, some of them will be on the day of judgment. As we know the hadith with three men that we brought before all of creation. On the day of judgment, one was a scholar, one gave money, and one what was brave. And Allah will remind them all of the favor that he gave them. And will ask them, why did you do such and such? And they would say, oh Allah, I did it for you. And Allah will say what in front of all of creation? Kadhabt, you're a liar. You did it because such and such. So you got what you wanted and be thrown in the hellfire. The point that I'm trying to bring is that we can play these games, but you can't play these games with Allah. Advise myself first and foremost. So what are the three levels? The same thing that goes for the one who's being truthful is on the flip side. It's three levels to be declared and be written down as a liar. The person is what? He's not truthful with who? Himself. So how do you understand that this person is not truthful with themselves? They don't acknowledge that he's wrong. Got an excuse for everything. I think, why you do that? Why you do that? Why you do that? Why you fight that, bro? I lost my temper. He did this, he did that. So on and so forth. Why you drinking? Because it is. My job. I got all these hours and all this other stuff. You got an excuse for everything in the world. But he never looks towards himself to acknowledge that, listen, I got these issues, I need to work on it. I'm falling short. I like this particular sin, I got to work on it. So on and so forth. And he doesn't have to confess these things to other people, but at the very least, he knows within himself, this is my shortcoming. Alright? I got a problem with my tongue. I be cursing people out left and right. I need to work on that. I need to do this, I need to do that. I got a problem with money. I need to focus on this. I got a drug habit. I need to work on it. Wherever it is, I got a problem listening to music. I need to work on it. A person needs to be honest with themselves first and foremost so you can fix the issue. If you can't be honest with yourself, then you have a big issue. At the very least, forget being honest with other people right now. At the very least, if you can't look yourself in the mirror and say that I have these particular issues, if you can't sit down by yourself at home when no one's around, when your wife is not around, when your husband's not around, if you can't write cons in your life, things that you need to work on, something is wrong. Because that would mean, quote unquote, you're an angel. You mean to tell me 30 years of your life, 35 years of your life, You don't know, you don't see anything that's wrong with you personally. You can't acknowledge any sins that you do personally. You got it that good. You got it better than Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Well, even he himself made istighfar 100 times a day. Something is wrong. So that's the first level. A person has to be, or a person lies to themselves. Right? A person, we said the second level was what? For truthfulness, being truthful to lie. So therefore, the second level on the lying part, person lies to what? He betrays his agreement all the time with Allah. What do I mean? How many times a Muslim prays a day? One? Five. Alright? So therefore, he finds an excuse why he can't pray 5 times a day. I give Allah 3, but at 5, I don't know about that one. I'll give Allah 2. When it comes to Ramadan, 13 hours, 14 hours, 15 hours. I know I got like 10 in my tank. I don't know about that 13 though. So he starts to pretend to be sick. So much so he convinces himself that what? He's sick. He ain't really sick. Oh, I'll make that day up. I'll do this, I'll do that. So on and so forth. So this person is what? He's lying to himself, and he's also lying to who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alright? So that's the second level. The third level, as well as far as lying with a person, if he does this, he's considered also to be, Allah knows best, Allah knows unseen, but he may be considered from those who are lying, or considered to be a liar with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third level we said is what? A person lies to what? Other people. Other people. First level is what again? Self-denial. Person can't keep it honest, be real with themselves. Second one, he's lying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the third one, he's lying to what? To other people. Excuse me, before we do that, take a step back to lying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who has a Quran in English? If you have it on your phone, a smartphone, go to Surah Yunus, verse number 12. So it's 10:12. 10:12. If you have a smartphone, go on your smartphone, please. 10:12. And it's the second level in regards to lying to Allah. So we're taking a step back. We're talking about the person who lies to Allah. They can't even keep it honest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
One.
Huh? 10:12? You got it? Go ahead, Musa.
And when trouble touches a man,
You gotta read loud.
and when trouble touches a man, he cries to us in many ways, lying down on his side, or sitting, or standing. But when we have solved his trouble, he goes on his way as if he never cried to us for the trouble, and that had touched him. Thus, the actions of those who exceed their limits look all right in their own eyes.
SubhanAllah. We need to understand that verse. Allah says, وَإِذَا مَسَّ الْإِنسَانَ ضُرٌّ دَعَنَا لِجَنْبِهِ. That when harm inflicts a man, he starts what? Screaming on Allah. Oh Allah, cure me. Oh Allah, do this. Oh Allah, do that. He calls on him when he's laying on his side, when he's sitting down, and what? When he's standing. Calling all day, screaming on his Lord. Oh Allah, help. Let's be honest, we do it all the time. Allah, I swear, if you just help me with this one issue, I'm going to get right. Right or wrong? Let's be real, right or wrong? I said it sometimes in my life too. If you help me with this, if you just help me with this, I promise I ain't going to do this no more. So Allah says, فَلَمَّا كَشَفْنَا. And when we remove the harm from him, then what is it? What's Allah say? Read it again, Mustafa? Oh, you just closed it. Read it.
Know that.
And when harm touches man, he invokes us, lying on his side or sitting or standing.
Uh-huh.
But when we have removed his harm from him, he passes on as if he had never invoked us for harm.
All right, stop. When we remove that hardship from him, when we remove that disease he was going through, any type of disease, the cancer, the this, the STD, whatever it was, when we remove that from him, he started to do what? He forgot about those promises he made to Allah. Lying to Allah. So then go ahead, keep reading.
Thus, this is made fair seeming to the musrifun, that which they used to do.
So therefore, to this person, he feels like, oh, I'm being honest with Allah. So this person is confused. So therefore, the second level we talk about lying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When anytime a person is afflicted with something, he's on his hands and knees, getting up, praying at night, so on and so forth. Once that hardship removed, he forget about everything. Or she forget about everything. Right? So you want to be honest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The last level as well, and to be able to break it for fast, the last level where a person lies to other people. And he betrays the trust, or she betrays the trust of her sisters, and he betrays the trust of his brothers. There's a hadith, and I want everyone to focus on this hadith. With the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Kaburat khiyanatan." The biggest khiyana, the biggest treachery, the biggest breach of treachery that you can ever do, and tuhadditha akhaka haditha, that you tell your brother something, وَهُوَ لَكَ بِهِ مُصَدَّقٌ, and he believes you based because of who you are. You tell him something, and he believes you because you told him. وَأَنْتَ لَهُ بِهِ كَاذِبٌ, but you, whereas you have lied to him. You know that you lied to him. So the Prophet ﷺ said the biggest treachery you can ever do is that, for an example, Mustafa, I use an example, right? If I go to Mustafa, and I tell him, you know, whatever it is, I just tell him something. And because me and Mustafa have a good relationship, because I told him something, he believes me. And that's the only reason why he believes me. Because, mashallah, Abdul Wahaab told me. But I know deep down, I'm doing what? I'm throwing him a curveball. I'm lying to him because I want something from him. Right? So this is the biggest form of treachery. So once again, if a person exemplifies these three levels, where he's lying to himself, he's lying to Allah, and he's lying to other people, at that point, a'udhu billah, perhaps he's fulfilling the second part of the hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ said that lying leads to what? Evil actions. And evil action leads to what? The fire. And a man will. So having said that, we want to just mention these particular levels. All right. Now, also, one of the things that we get from this as well is that small deeds leads to what? Bigger deeds. Notice that the Prophet ﷺ, he said that lying leads to what? Evil actions. Do not belittle the small things that you do. Somebody said, "Oh, it was only a white lie." That white lie turns to this. "Oh, my son, he just stole a piece of candy. He's a child. He grows up. That candy turns into a wallet. That wallet turns into this. That turns into prison. This turns into this, so on and so forth." So notice that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that these little things lead to what? Bigger things. Similar to a flood. A flood just don't fall out the sky. It starts with what? Raindrop. How many of us heard growing up the snowball effect? Starts off small, keeps going, and what? It get bigger. Person tell one lie, he got to tell 20 more to cover up that one lie. So it doesn't stop. And that's the whole point. So therefore, we'll end with that, inshallah ta'ala. We want the people to take advantage of making dua, because they're going to call the adhan in a few minutes. We'll make dua, inshallah ta'ala, to Allah Jalla wa ala, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned that there are 3 du'as that are never ever rejected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he mentioned the dua of the sa'im, the dua of the traveling person, and dua of the parents over their children. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفر الله وأتوب إليه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Isn't it sunnah make 2 rak'ah after the thing?
Thing.
Anytime you have a khabar?
No. Please.